vroeg, rond de 7 uur denk ik, bij Peters vertrokken. We zijn dan over Peters weggegaan over Testelt. Daar hebben we dan met de les, we hebben eerst een Duits gezien. Die stonden daar op het plein, met maar gereed uit de aksen te doen, alleen oefeningen te doen. En daar hebben we schoten mee geweld van. Dat nooit geen Duits gezien. En dan zijn we daar gepasseerd en wij riepen allemaal goeiemorgen in Duits. En wij met de fiets weg. Hè. Ik op kop en Les en Torfs van achter met een tanden achter mij. Zo zijn we dan gepasseerd. Dat was altijd duwelsgevaar. Hè. Het stond altijd gekend, als je gepakt werd, maar doe het. Daar waren we zeker van.
That 15-kilometer bike ride had taken Les very near West Knowlton and the crash site to arrive here at the Canart family farm near Westerlo. Here, Les was welcomed by the Canart family, or at least those not hiding in the woods to avoid forced labor. 2 of the girls, Paula and Gabriella, still manage the farm. In contrast with the Peters, the Canarts did not seem alarmed at the risk associated with the airmen, and Les was given a great deal of freedom.
I had freedom to wander around the yard, but not outside the gates, not outside the farmyard, but within the farmyard I could wander around.
Freedom was also enjoyed by the Russian prisoners of war working the surrounding farms. 3 or 4 of them would often be at the dinner table or playing cards.
I didn't feel in any danger, strangely enough. I wasn't in the same situation as Wes was, and I didn't feel any danger. As a matter of fact, I perhaps could have stayed at the Canards indefinitely.
Shortly after his arrival, Florent arrived with another airman, Will Lynch, an engineer with 100 Squadron. Florent Canart worked for the local Gavert film factory. His manager, Joe Gurdon, was part of the local underground and spoke good English. Florent and the 2 airmen would travel by night after curfew down this path to the Gurdons, diving into the ditch if they thought someone was coming.
I think that the Gurdons probably suggested that we come over this way just to break the monotony of living in hiding, as it were. And Mrs. Gurdon used to give us cake and coffee, which we really enjoy. And on 1 or 2 occasions I had a bath while I was over here.
The 2 men were becoming impatient in spite of their relative comfort.
I wanted to get on, get away, and work my way back to Britain. I remember Mr. Gurdon saying, well, I'll do what I can, but he said, I'll have to make connections first. And I don't think he was really in favor of my going further or leaving here, but he made the arrangements.
By this time, they had been joined by a 3rd airman, Stan Woodward, from 78 Squadron. The plan was for the 3 men to be picked up here.
Chap who did show up identified himself as a British agent.
One of the other 2 men in the car was Donald, the same agent that was feeding airmen to Yvonne Rehay in Antwerp. The men did arrive in Antwerp, but at the home of another Yvonne de Ridder. Here, too, precautions seemed lax. The airmen watched the German Wehrmacht parade out the front window and even went for a walk one evening.
We'd been staying with Yvonne de Ridder. We should have suspected something when the same man came to pick us up as had delivered us there. He took us to another apartment in Antwerp where we spent the afternoon. And the host and hostess there were very, very good to us. They fed us and fed us. Later that evening, a chap appeared and was introduced to us as our driver who was taking us to this airfield in France. But as we crossed the street, I noticed a driver behind the wheel, and I began to wonder, how come there's another driver when our so-called driver is walking with us?
The car and the armed drivers drove the men right to the Antwerp jail.
And our so-called driver said, well, this is the end of the line. And I said, what do you mean? You're kidding. And he said, I'm not kidding. This is the German secret police. Get out.
For Les Anderson, the game was over. He was one of 177 airmen turned in by the double agent Donald, a.k.a. Rennie Van Meulen.
You know, in 45, whenever I said, but where is he? Oh, we must celebrate the end of. I said, oh, I hope nothing happened to him. Do you know? Of course, I was confident I would never have done. And you know, from here he went straight to prison. From here.
The war's end brought a further shock. Her long-awaited husband had been dead for 3 years.
He was executed. And they never let me know. And then it's in 45, when the war was over, that I knew.
There were other consequences to Joe Gurdon's contact with Donald. The Abwehr turned their attentions to the local secret army. Many lost their lives, including Florent's brother, Auguste, who was to die in concentration camp. Les would remain a POW till the end of the war. John Ling's condition improved at Tessenderlo, and he was moved to this large country farm called Oschenstall at Eindhout.
The Venance family got into the evader business pretty much by chance. They woke up one morning to find 4 American airmen sleeping here in their barn. There were to be 15 more such before war's end, plus numerous Belgian resistance fighters fleeing the long arm of the Gestapo.
Voor ons was dat een heerlijk gevoel. Voor ons was het plezant.
Een avontuur, hè?
Dat was plezant, hè?
Dat was
Plezant, ja. En het waren goeie mannen allemaal.
Ja.
Allemaal goeie mannen.
Allemaal heel vriendelijk en beleefd.
En Johnny Ling was een hele stille, brave jongen. Ja. Maar die was gekwetst als hij bij ons kwam. Hè. Hij was gekwetst, want een dokter heeft hij gebracht en dan heeft hij hem komen verzorgen naderhand. Hè. Voor klutselen zo hebben er nog een andere priester, hoe ziet hij weer?
Eskes.
Die heeft voor kleedsel gezorgd ook voor die piloten. Hè. Ja. Dat ze andere kleedselkosten aandoen. Hè. En die priester die kwam over te klappen er tegen, hè, van haverboden.
The Vinants were a generous, compassionate people. As well as hiding numerous airmen, their dinner table at times included hungry German soldiers and Russian POWs.
Voor die mensen, gelijk die Engelsen en die Canadezen en zo, dat vond ik dan toch erg, dat die zo wijd moesten komen voor te vechten tegen die Dutsen. Ja. En omdat die hier binnengevallen zijn, moesten die door zo wijd ter lijve geriskeren. Ja. Dat vond ik zo toch nog wel straf.
John Ling remained here for 14 days, and then was smuggled to Brussels by a member of the resistance, Marcel Koenen. It was just in time, for a trap had been laid for the Vinants.
Er zijn er wel eens een verpleegster geweest, hè, die vroeg naar die piloot die er gekwetst was, die moest zij komen verzorgen. Maar hij was dat een valse. Hè. Maar die was toen toch juist weg ook, hè?
Die was weg, dat was
ja. Maar onze vader, mijn onkel was er ook bij en die zei, er zijn hier geen geweest, daar zijn er toch abuus mee, want toen zeiden ze tegen elkaar, ze hebben nog zeker toch niet in een val gelokt, zeiden ze tegen elkaar, die verpleegster en er was nog iemand bij, hè? Ja. Ze hebben nog zeker toch niet in een val gelokt, zeiden.
In Brussels, John is thought to have fallen into the hands of the notorious double agent Prosper de Zitter, for he befell the same fate as Les Anderson in the same POW camp. Marcel Koenen lost his life for trying to help.